Day 30 of 100 Days of Code. As I'm learning the Python programming language, this video is to track my progress and to hold myself accountable. I spent some time going over tuples and just basically identifying the differences in tuples versus list. In day 29, and I'll hop over there really quickly, I manipulated list, and we see that when you're creating a list, you use a square bracket, and you can manipulate it using different methods such as the append or using index to determine the position of an element within the list. You can remove certain elements from your list. You can reverse or sort. And there are a number of other methods that you can apply to list in order to manipulate them. When you're working with tuples, however, they're somewhat similar, but they have differences that are very distinct. So they're similar in that they store multiple items in a variable. However, when you're working with the tuple, it is immutable, and lists are mutable. So what that means is that basically you can't change the tuple once it's assigned. Let's go ahead and create one. So tuple, you're going to use parentheses instead of square brackets. And then you would write out your elements that you want to include in your tuple. When you're working with a tuple, you can't leave it blank because it has to be assigned. And again, as I mentioned, it's immutable. So once it's assigned, it can't be changed. If I leave it blank, I can't change it. Another reason is because you can't manipulate it because it is immutable. So if I tried to do tuple dot append, and let's say want to append the SSH protocol to it and print the tuple, I will get an error. And that's because it doesn't, the attribute append doesn't apply to it. So what you would need to do is basically create your tuple. So let's go ahead and create a short one. All right, we have a tuple called tuple, which consists of elements that are protocols. And there are 4 elements here. You can, however, use the index to access elements in the list, just like the access elements in a tuple. Similar to the list, you would use your square brackets, and let's say I want to access index 0, which is this first position here. And then I'm going to wrap this in a print function, and you see I can access it. However, I can't assign elements to it because, again, it's immutable. So if I try to do this and assign FTP to change this and then print, I will get an error. Type error, tuple object does not support item assignment. So I can't assign an element to a tuple because it cannot be changed. It is like a list, except its size cannot be changed. You cannot add more elements than originally specified. The parentheses pretty much acts like a delimit to this. In other words, it fixes it so that way it cannot be changed. The only way to change this tuple is if I were to completely reassign it like that. And let's just print this out. Obviously, because it's reassigning it, it's in another position in our program. Once I print this out, you'll see that it prints out the newly reassigned. And that's just a little bit about working with tuples.